Alright, hey guys, and welcome to my very first Let's Play. Might be a little confusing because in the past I have done some sort of short Let's Play videos where I played a game for maybe, a half an hour, but I think I'm gonna give a try at doing a full Let's Play. Each video, probably be about a half an hour or so. And I figured what better game than to play ICO, which I still consider to be my favorite game of all time. And today I'm going to be playing the PS3 remake. And by the way, when I first got this game, I'm not even kidding, I probably sat here for a good 10 minutes going back and forth here, trying to catch a glimpse of what separates ICO and Shadow of the Colossus here on the game selection screen, because previously, before this collection came out, this art existed and obviously this art existed, but we had never previously, at least to my knowledge, seen, little glimpses of what lies between these two pieces of art here. And I was sitting here going back and forth forever, trying to see, oh my god, because I've always been interested in how the two games are potentially connected, so this was a nice little treat. And then of course they had an image online that made it much easier than sitting here like a madman going back and forth forever. But anyway, that's besides the point. I am going to be playing ICO, hopefully from start to finish. We'll see how this goes. And I'm going to be starting from the very beginning of the game. I'm going to start a new game. And I have played, the thing about ICO and myself is that I don't play it, despite it being my favorite game of all time, I don't play it as frequently as some people might think. And the reason is, I don't want to wear it out, I like to give the game a couple of years, maybe even a few years between playthroughs, because then I go into it fresh. Sometimes I forget a puzzle here and there, exactly how to figure it out. I don't want to wear the game thin, if you play the game too much, you'll wear it out. And it won't be the same, it won't be as exciting to play it again. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let the opening cutscene here play, since this is a full Let's Play, no skipping cutscenes here. And, yeah, so it's been a while since I played it, basically since the PS3 remakes came out, which was a few years ago, if I remember right. I forget exactly when. But I remember when they announced the remake collection, I honestly couldn't believe it, because, ICO, before Shadow of the Colossus came out, ICO was very, very unknown. Nobody really knew about ICO. Maybe it was the box art, maybe it was just a very strange game. Shadow of the Colossus really brought it into, it really highlighted ICO, and a lot more people discovered ICO after playing Shadow of the Colossus, because they loved Shadow of the Colossus so much that they wanted to check out what else the studio had done, which obviously was ICO. And, I'm really happy about that. The more people that play ICO, the better. I've always been a strong supporter of trying to get people to play this game. Actually, I know I've said this before, I don't remember, but in high school I would literally buy extra used copies of the game at game stores for, $8, $10, and I would give them to friends to get them to play the damn game, because I loved it so much. So let's start it up here. And for those of you that have no idea what the heck ICO is, story-wise, it's left up for interpretation, and I think that's what I was really... That's the reason why I was really drawn to this game to begin with. And I guess I can go over my history and how I, found out about ICO. It's not that exciting. But it all started with the official PlayStation magazine when they had it on the front cover. And this is, I was buying the official PlayStation magazine in stores. I wasn't subscribed to it. The cover kind of stood out to me. Decided to pick it up and started reading about this game. And they described how you're in the castle, and they had some screenshots. And I'm like, oh man, this sounds amazing. And then I popped in the demo disc, and I played the demo for this. I'm not even kidding. At least 20 times before the game came out. I would just play it over and over and over. I just couldn't get enough of it. And it got to the point where when the official game came out, I noticed every single little difference between the demo and the retail version. They changed renders of the shadow creatures that are in the game. They changed the puzzles slightly. There were some very minuscule things, which I forget everything now because it's been a really long time since I played the demo. But there were some really minuscule things that they had changed from the demo to the retail version, which just kind of highlighted just how much I played that demo. What really drew me to the game is the concept of it. You're this kid who is mysteriously, just as you're watching here, locked away in a tomb in this castle. And you break free, and you try and escape. And you find this girl, Yorda, And, you know, that's really all you have to go with in the beginning, and it is never really truly explained to you why, you know, these guys here are taking Iko into the castle and locking him up. Obviously, now the accepted reason is, you know, he was born with horns, and that's why they brought him to the castle, and they locked him up, which is actually, it's not unknown, that's sort of like the reasoning behind it, I should say. The best example of trying to explain it all is the novel Iko, which is a really fun thing to read. It's sort of, I don't know, the author takes a lot of liberties with interpreting the story of Iko, so it's really fun for hardcore fans, but I would actually not recommend reading that book before you play this game, just so you can kind of have fun guessing, like, wow, what does all this mean? Why do the tombs glow? But yeah, so they're gonna lock Iko in there, lock his hands up, and you're gonna see me break free here in a second. And I'm like jumping around, but there's so much I want to say about this game, and the funny thing is, you know, despite this being my favorite game, what I still consider to be my favorite game ever, I've never done a proper review for Iko. I've mentioned it in my top PS2 games videos, but I've never, like, sat down and really spoke about it at length. And for the longest time, I had the hardest time trying to explain why I like this game so much. So I figured this would be really interesting for me to do a Let's Play, so I can kind of talk about it as I'm playing, and maybe you guys can get a sense for, you know, why I'm so attached to this game. So, graphically, the update from the PS2 to the PS3 was actually really drastic. So much so that if you've never played this game before, I would urge you to buy the PS3 version if you have the means to do so. Avoid the PS2 version at all costs, because honestly, there's really no real reason to play that one over the PS3, unless you are like a purist and you want to, you know, experience it in its most original form. And you know, it's so weird right now that I'm feeling rumble, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty lazy when it comes to buying game controllers, and my PS2 controllers, for some reason, for a long time ago, probably from playing so much SOCOM, the rumble just stopped working. So I played a lot of my games without rumble. So it's kind of weird that I'm playing Iko with rumble now. I know it's something really weird to think about. I know most of you probably don't even think about rumble, but yeah, my PS2, I just never really got around to buying a new controller, because I'm like, why am I going to spend $50 and have a working controller? I can live without the rumble. So it's going to be interesting to play through with some rumble. However, you know, I have played, obviously, the remake before. I never completely finished it, though. I made it probably about 70% through the game, about. But I never finished the remake because I wanted to jump into Shadow of the Colossus. So I was like, it's kind of hard having two of my favorite games ever thrown at me with an HD remake and sort of having to jump between the two of them. So hopefully this time I can actually finish it. So what you're seeing here is, I mean, I don't want to spoil too much, but I'm assuming if you're watching a Let's Play and you've never played the game before, you're probably not going to care too much about spoilers. That was Yorda in the cage there, which is the white girl, or I should not say white girl, the ghostly white girl. You know, she's fully in white, her skin is pale white, her clothes are pale white, that you're eventually, or I am eventually going to find locked away in a cage. So, I also just want to say that I used to, or I probably still do, it's been a while since I've done this, but I take great pleasure in watching my friends play this game. So I'll like force them to sit down and play Iko. I had this one friend that I did that to, and I literally just sat him down and I'm like, play this game. And I made him play, I think it took us like 2 sittings or something, I don't even remember. And I would just force him to sit there and play through the game, and I just found it so much fun watching someone play, and I wouldn't give them hints, because the puzzles in this are sort of cryptic sometimes, and I enjoyed so much watching somebody struggle to beat this game. And the funny part is, most new players to Iko will, when you first start the game here, and as you see, first the camera is not a traditional camera like most games. This is actually how you move it around. You just move it around the environment, so it takes a lot of getting used to for some new players, because you can move your character and the camera at the same time, and you can continue to move your character as the camera is not looking at him. But most new players, or most people that I watch when they play this, they wander around this area, and I tell them, all right, here's the first area, good luck, and I don't tell them anything. So they start wandering up here, they start jumping up here, they try everything they can, and it's actually really obvious what you're supposed to do once you see it. But they're wandering around, they're like, what the heck do I have to do? They're trying to jump on the tombs. I'm sure some people catch on, but yeah, you just come right over here, come up top, and then there's just a simple lever up here that you pull. And one of the reasons why I think I really like this game is I like to call it environmental puzzles. Oop, come on. I'm like trying to remember what... Yeah, there we go. Circle. I like to call the puzzles in this more like environmental puzzles because they don't stand out. That's one thing I hate about games that incorporate puzzles. Like they... not to bag on Uncharted because that's one of my favorite series, but a lot of times like the ledges and stuff that you gotta grab onto in there are just painfully obvious. Or games these days will like highlight the ledges and like stuff you gotta pull and like levers and switches and everything like that. They just make it so obvious, and walls that you gotta climb onto. ICO blends them into the environment. And they have block puzzles where you gotta take blocks and then push them onto switches and stuff. But it does a good job of blending in its puzzles into its environments. And I remember when I played this on the PS2, I know this sounds crazy, but the physics on this chain just blew my mind. I had never seen anything like this before. Like, if you just look at the chain and the way it moves, I personally had never seen anything like that in a game before. I thought it was one of the coolest things, and it was so different at the time. And I know I'm just like sort of here hanging on to this one scene here, but this is why I'm trying to explain why I liked ICO so much at the time and still do. Look at the way the camera moves. It's dynamic. Look how it shifts from a far away angle to a close angle, and it moves to the window over there on the side. Like, it's very artistic. And I know there's those people out there that are like, oh, it's artsy-fartsy, ICO is just an artsy-fartsy game. But, I came from a very strong art background. I used to major in art in college. So, games like this really spoke to me. Alright, enough about the chain. And this is why I fell in love with the game right away, because I'm like, what do I gotta do here? You climb the chain, and then you realize, oh, oops, you don't do that. It's been a while, and the controls in ICO, honestly, are a little bit strange. Like, when you first play this game, they take some getting used to. That is for damn sure. Alright, so I'm like, alright, what do I do now? I'm climbing up this chain, and then you see this open window over here. It looks like it's just part of the environment. Come on. Alright, so you hold circle, and then you start swinging. Of course, the going through the chain stuff, that's typical PS2 era. They're not going to be able to render that correctly. I think we got to go a little bit lower, but we'll find out. Yeah, we got to swing a little bit lower on this chain. Imagine all the ICO speedrunners out there that are probably watching me, like, dying on the inside right now. And that's one thing I would never, ever consider doing with ICO is a speedrun. I just feel like, what the heck is going on here? I don't know why I'm having such a hard time swinging on this chain. Alright, let's try just swinging onto the ledge right here. I think speedrunning, one of your favorite games ever, kind of ruins the experience, especially with... What the heck am I doing wrong? I don't know why this is so difficult. People are probably, like, laughing right now so much. Go up more, come on. I don't think I've ever had this hard of a time with the chain. I don't know what the heck is up. Alright, there we go, finally. What am I doing wrong? Alright, I think I'm hitting the wrong button to jump off. Well, this is a very interesting start to this. Probably foreshadowing of what's to come. I don't care, though. This is going to remain unedited in its full glory. There we go. Triangle. I was hitting circle or X or something. Get the heck up. Come on. Alright, well now that we've gotten over the hurdle of the controls of my favorite game of all time... yeah, it's been a while. And the controls, like I said, not the easiest controls. So this is like the first true puzzle room in ICO, and what's so great is that it allows you to really look at the full environment. Some people absolutely hate the camera in ICO. And I'm sort of a big fan of it. I think it's unique. It definitely takes some getting used to your first time playing. But once you get over that hurdle, I think you'll really grow to like it, because it allows you to explore the environment, look around. Alright. I know a lot of people that play this too, when they first come in, they don't even notice the ladders. They're just like so fixated on those odd-looking doors over there that they just completely miss the fact that there are ladders to go up. I just want you to pay attention to, once again, the camera. How it zooms in. Like, just little things like that at the time. I had honestly really never experienced a game like this before. And this is also going to be a good example coming up of why the puzzles in this I like to call environmental puzzles, because it's sort of unexpected the way that you have to progress here coming up. Some people get stuck on it, some people catch on right away, but others struggle with exactly what to do, and you'll see what I mean. Another thing you'll find about ICO, there's really not much music to it. The music tracks for this game are very few and far between, usually reserved for cutscenes or story sequences, which are also few and far between. So it's very atmospheric. It's just a lot of white noise, a lot of environmental noise, birds chirping, water, you know, from the beach or the shore. Like here, for example, one of the few songs within the game, if you'd even call it a song. It's more just sort of like background music in a way. It's not even... Wait, is that... I'm trying to remember if that's one of the tracks on the soundtrack. No, I don't think so. Alrighty, so now everybody's like, alright, what do you do next? How do you get to her? And then obviously the staircase ends here. A lot of people try and jump across, they fall down, you gotta start running up again. This is one of the most fun parts I have watching when people play ICO, is seeing how fast they figure this part out. Now if you look around, you know, you can explore your environment, you see these windows, and you notice that one of them over here, however, or two of them I should say, don't have any window grating on them. So, it's as simple as this, climbing through the window, but it's sort of like so well blended into the environment that some people don't even notice. Come on. And it's a great example of how the rest of the puzzles in this game will sort of play out. And this is the first example of one of my guilty pleasures playing ICO is, and you're going to probably see me do this through this Let's Play, is I used to love just coming out into the outdoor environments and just looking around. I would just sit here for, you know, every time I got to a new outdoor environment, I would sit here and look around. I would slowly move the camera around, check out the surroundings, and eventually you'll come to find that, you know, hey, that area right over there, I'll eventually go to and play through. Because the entire game is this castle, and for the most part, everything that you see in the background, castle-wise, is something you will eventually get to. And the environments in this are just so beautiful, and they still are. Really beautiful to look at. And that's why I love the camera in this game so much. Alright, so we're through the first major puzzle. Even though from the looks of it, I think that chain earlier on in the game was giving me a run for, you know, the hardest puzzle in ICO so far, for the amount of time that I've been trying to jump off that chain. Alright, so we lower Yorda down. Now we run back down. Typically there's not a lot of backtracking in this game. It moves at a... I think we could just jump down, actually. We don't have to go back out. Come on. We can just fall here. And, you know, you can look down and check everything out. I mean, camera in this is definitely love or hate, but I am a fan of it. More for the looking around and exploring the environment, more so than, you know, having more of a traditional character that will rotate around ICO. But I think they had to go with this style of camera just because of the way that the camera shifts and the way the environments are in this game. And then we're going to get a taste for the first time of the combat in this game, which is another thing which is very hit or miss, and is sort of like a big topic that a lot of people love or hate, because the combat is very simplistic. Oh, okay, now we gotta go over here, because you gotta figure out how to get her down. And another thing about this game, there really is no traditional life bar per se. You can take as much damage as you want, but you'll see here in a second that Yorda is essentially your life bar. Seamless transition from gameplay to cutscene, which is not a big deal, but I don't know, I'm just a big fan of that kind of stuff. And there's Yorda. She does not speak the same language as you. Interestingly enough, the US version of ICO, that always remained untranslated. But in the PAL version, if I remember right, if you beat the game once and you play through it again or something like that, it will actually translate what Yorda says, which is pretty interesting. I looked through a transcript one time online to sort of get a better sense for the story. So these are the shadow creatures. Now that Yorda is out of her cage, we don't really know who she is, why she was in a cage. But these shadow creatures are definitely trying to take her back and pull her into the ground. And that's a common theme throughout the whole game. This is basically how the combat in the entire game goes the entire time. So what I want to do, grab the torch, or the stick, and you just hack them to death. Now, combat early in the game can get a little monotonous, because the stick does not do as much damage as a weapon that you'll get later in the game. But you get used to it eventually. This is another point of the game where it sort of turns people away, because combat can linger on for quite a while in this, and it can get a little bit annoying as you get knocked down and constantly have to save Yorda. Here is probably the biggest gameplay mechanic, though, is being able to grab her hand and run around with her, and this is done by holding R1 on the controller. And if you let go of R1, it lets go of Yorda, and just walking past her and hitting it will automatically grab onto her. And the great thing about this is the way it feels. Right now in the controller, there's a very small, like, pulse, like a very, very slight thump in the controller, which sort of like mimics the footsteps of either yourself or Yorda, let me say. Yeah, it mimics her movement, because it only happens when I grab onto her. And you just bring her around the whole game with you like this. You know, it might seem kind of strange and mean, like, you know, stuff like this. But what really, really makes it so awesome is over the course of the game, and that's a really weird camera angle. How about we just continue on while I explain this? You can also call her, and she'll come running towards you. Throughout the course of the game, you'll see Yorda evolve. In the beginning, she's sort of frail, and you kind of have to, you know, lead her around everywhere, and she's sort of slow when it comes to picking up on things. But the more and more that you play, the more and more that you'll notice that she catches on to things, and she starts reacting better to, you know, doing things on her own, instead of having to handhold her literally throughout the whole game. And you're going to be doing a lot of this, which is helping her up ledges. And, you know, it slows down the gameplay, which is another thing. You know, I understand that not everybody likes ICO, because things like that slow down the gameplay. It's sort of a slow trudge through the game, having to constantly monitor Yorda. But it builds a bond between the characters in a game where story is minimal, but character development and interaction is very much heightened. And the story and character development builds more through the way they interact in the game, more so through than conversation. And experiences through the game, especially later on in the game, which I will just say, this is one of the... I have shed a tear or two in this game. You know, I just got so emotionally attached. So let's just take a moment, as usual, to take in the environment here for a second. Yeah, we get our first glimpse of green trees. One of my favorite aspects of this game. The contrast between the bright green and the sort of muted earth tones of the castle was always one of my favorite aspects of the art style in this. And this is sort of an iconic area right here with this horned sculpture. This is used in many promotional art pieces and artworks for ICO right here, where he's typically standing on this other pillar here looking out across to the other side of the castle. But this right here is actually a save point, and if we sit down and call her to our side, I'm actually doing a button input to call her to sit down. Only when she sits down you can save. With one of the best songs ever, this is the save theme song. Simple, catchy, pretty cute. What do you say we save? Okay, so that's my old file. We're just gonna right onto file 2. Game is not long, by the way. Typical playtime, probably like, what, 7 hours? 8, 10 at most. But, yeah, I think, guys, that's gonna do it for part 1. We're getting onto the half-an-hour mark. I think this is a great place to end it. And we'll pick up in part 2 as we see what's on the other side of this bridge here. Thanks for watching, guys.